My youth is yours, tripping on skies, sipping waterfalls. My youth is yours, run away now and forevermore. My youth is yours, truth so loud that you can't ignore. My youth, my youth, my youth, my youth is yours. I know a sad song. I know a sad song. I know a sad song. I know a sad song.
Hello everybody, a little early. I'm just going to turn that music down a little. Just going to wait for some more people to get onto the stream. I've got the comments to my left, which is why I'm looking down here. Hope you guys have all been good, having a good week, and yeah. Make sure you all get a cup of tea or something while we go through this track. It's a massive track. It's by an artist called Luch Stefano. A very, very talented guy. I've been working with him for years, and this is actually one of my favourite ones we've done. And as you can see now, I'm just scrolling through all the audio tracks. Luch is a perfectionist, and so am I. He's probably more of a perfectionist than me, so this mix, do you know what, it's actually funny, normally it can take quite a while, but I kind of just mixed this on my own, and then I streamed this mix over to him, and then we made some changes, and this is what we got to the final mix. So I'll just wait for some more people. Hey Sam, how you doing? You made it. Whoop whoop. So this stream, so the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks, I can't remember now how long I've been streaming for, but I think it's about 3 weeks. I've actually been mixing live, and I thought this time I'm just going to show you a mix that's already released, because, you know, change it up so it doesn't get too boring. And if you've got any questions, then yeah, hit me up. As I say, I can see the messages to the left-hand side, so yeah, I can see what you're saying. I'll just wait for a few more people to get on, and then we'll get cracking. So this mix probably took me about 6 hours to do, and then went over to Luch, the artist, Luch Stefano, and then he sent a few revisions over, and as I said a second ago, we did the revision, so in all it's probably taken about 6 to 8 hours to get this to kind of a finished mix. Right, well, let's get started. There's people on, so let's do it. So I'm just going to mute this. Okay, so the track that we're going to show you what I did, or I'm going to show you what I did. I'm just going to play that out to you, and let's have a listen down to the final mix, and then I'll kind of work backwards, explaining everything I did to achieve it.
Every single day I used to wake up with a little bit of you in my mouth, and that's okay. I don't mind making out in the morning light. I know, but the song I'll play. Play me a song you like. Is it alright if we lie fully naked and just lay here? Maybe then you'll stay another night. A martini deep. Okay, I don't like you. How's that? Turn on the TV and we can actually chill, but no one actually chill. Instead the bed gets wrecked and next one of us is sitting back down. Netflix is for the background, the neighbours going mad now. Jump into my car and ran to Mackey's. Mayo chicken in my bag please. Laughing at the losers in the whip, they're proper chubby. Every single day I used to wake up with a little bit of you in my mouth, and that's okay. I don't mind making out in the morning light. I know, but the song I'll play. Play me a song you like. Is it alright if we lie fully naked and just lay here? Maybe then you'll stay another night. Say, would you leave me if I told you I can't make all of your wishes come true?
Yes.
I ain't no genie, but I could sweep you off your feet if you just fly with me. I want a night ride, I want a night ride, and anywhere we drive is fine with me. I want a night ride, I want a night ride, and anywhere we drive is fine with me. Every single day I used to wake up with a little bit of you in my mouth, and that's okay. I don't mind making out in the morning light. I know, but the song I'll play. Play me a song you like. Is it alright if we lie fully naked and just lay here? Maybe then you'll stay another night.
Wait, there's got to be a solo like.
So that is the track that I'm going to be showing you everything that I did to achieve that sound. Yeah, so let me just explain for the people that want to know kind of the routing of how I've done this. So let me just go to the top. I'll go from scratch. So kicks, go to a kick bass, and then I've got all my drums and claps, as you can see. So these are all my claps. They go to a clap bass, and that clap bass goes to a drum bass. Then I've got the remaining drums, the hats, and the percussion. They all go to a drum bass. Then I've got some snares. They go to a snare bass, and then the snare bass goes to the drum bass. So as you can see, everything kind of goes from a folder to a folder. The way that I've routed this one, because it's got like a hip-hop vibe, in hip-hop, in this kind of genre, you've got to get that kind of kick and bass to sit tight. Like that is like the main thing. If you get the kick and your bass right, everything else is just easy. And so because of that, I actually created a separate bus, a kick and a bass bus. So my kick and bass is a separate bus to my drum bus. So everything else, like snares, claps, hi-hats, overheads, or whatnot, they are going to a drum bus, and the kick and bass are going to their own bus. And that is just so I've got a little bit more control on the low end side of it, just because it's such a big impact in this particular track. I don't always do that. Sometimes I just keep it all in one drum bus, but if it's kind of quite a low subby kick and it's really got to work with the bass, well, it always has to work with the bass, but if it's got to be kind of within the bass kind of frequencies, then I will tend to put that on the same bus. So that's that. So we've got all the drums here, and then we go down to the bass. The bass, there was a few different kind of bass ideas. However, we ended up with these two basses. They're actually the same, and I'll go through what I did. I just duplicated it and processed it slightly different with some distortion, again, just so it cuts through on some smaller speakers. Then we've got the effects. Keep going. Then we've got the acoustic guitars, electric guitars, strings, vocals, vocal dubs, which are like doubles, backing vocals, ooze. They're all backing vocals, but I put them on a separate bus. Vocal effects, little delay throws. And what happens is then these are my buses. As I've said, you've got kick and bass, drum bus, music bus, vocal bus, all goes to a mix bus. And that mix bus goes to a unlimited mix and a limited mix. So these tracks here are the same. One's limited and one is unlimited, ready for mastering. The unlimited and the limited I kind of do at the same time for saving time. In Pro Tools you can route one output going to two input tracks. So that's what I did there. So hopefully that all makes sense. I'm kind of just breezing through this just so I can get into the finer details. But of course, if you've got any questions, then please shout. And if there's anything you want to know, why I'm doing it, how I'm doing it, then of course, please put it in the messages and I will answer the questions. We just work from kind of top to bottom on this project. Let me go through it. So, a lot of the stuff, it's all about the arrangement and the production's great. And so it kind of makes the mix pretty easy. Where are we? Output, perfect. It's a big session.
We cannot.
Okay, so if we just look at the kicks, I've got one kick here. You're hearing some guitars, aren't you? Let me just... It's a big session, so there's probably going to be some loose ends somewhere. I'm just going to mute the music bus, vocal bus, and the drum bus for now, just so we got the kick. So, here's one of the kicks. Oh no, we got the spinning wheel. Okay. Then I layered it. So you've got like the high kick and a low kick. The low's obviously providing the sub, and the highs kind of pushing those high frequencies up, just so on smaller systems it just gives that punch and that clarity on the kick. Both those kicks are going into a kick bus, which is this one here. So if I just show you what I did, I put virtual mix rack on it. I did some gain staging. I used the trimmer tool just so I can get it around 0 on here. It's around 0. For me, the plugins work better if it's hitting 0 on a VU meter, so that's why I do it. Then I did some saturation with some tape head. This is a fantastic plugin if you're into kind of using saturation on drums and use a tape head. I absolutely love it. If I just take everything off, just so you can hear. To me, it just adds that little bit of kind of dirt to it. Then I use the EQ Pultec, amazing plugin. This 60 hertz at 3 dB. This is like my go-to. Such a great plugin, just adds so much low end. Depending on what you're listening to now, you're going to hear a big difference on that. And then to get that bass tight, kick tight, is I use the RVox, which normally everybody uses this for vocals. But a mix and engineer called Mix by Ali, fantastic guy. I saw that he was using this RVox, and he was using it as kind of like a gate, and it just makes the tail of the kick not become so muddy. It kind of just shortens it, so it gives you that kind of extra power in the kick. So to me, that's just brought that forward ever so slightly, and I'm doing a little bit of compression as well. Then I've got the trusty R bass, which loads of people use, and I'm just using that just for the low subs. and that's just given me more of like a feel thing more than a hearing thing. It just feels better with this on. Just gives me that low end punch that I want. It's all about experimenting. I don't always do this, but I just apply plugins. If I like what it does, I keep it, and if I don't like what it does, I take it away. Funnily enough, I did that here. I had a parallel kick bus with a Moog EQ on it, adding some sub. But what I did was I did that before I added the R bass, and for some reason I just didn't like what this was doing. It just didn't sound right to me, so I muted it and used the R bass instead. It's doing a similar thing, but it just felt different, and it's all about feeling. So yeah, that's what happened there. Then let's go through what we've got here. We've got some claps. Oh, they all go to a clap bus. Why are they not playing? Because I muted my drum bus. Now they will play. Let's just do this one by one. So clap wise, I've just layered the claps up. If I just show you the first clap. That's adding some rhythm. That's what that's providing. And then in the verses, it's just slightly different claps, just to add a little bit of variety. Hear the difference? It kind of opens up. That's instead of, so what I could have done there theoretically is I could have just taken those claps that I had, put them on new tracks, changed the EQ, but instead I used different samples. Like, it's honestly all about samples. Obviously the mixing is important, but the mix is all about what samples are chosen in the production. If you use the right samples in the production, the mix is easy. I say it, loosely. Mixing isn't easy, but your mix is going to just kind of mix itself. I get some tracks that come through and I'm literally not doing anything, and I get other tracks and I'm having to do kind of a lot more work, and that's normally because the samples that have been chosen don't seem to work as well with each other. So instead of changing the samples, I will have to re-EQ the samples that I was given to make the samples work within the track, if that makes sense. So then after the claps, so we've got the kicks and the claps, and they work like this. Then we've got some hi-hats. So that's kind of the hi-hats, the kicks and the snares. You can see there's one muted here. I tried this. I didn't like it. I got rid of it. There's multiple hi-hats going on. Love doing that. It just adds, again, extra kind of groove and feel. If we look at the snare, because that's quite important. So the snare is, if we just do the first snare. I just felt like that needed some higher frequencies, so I just took some bass out and added some treble. This plugin is amazing on everything. I tend to use it a lot. Just make sure that noise is off, otherwise it ruins your mix. In my opinion, I just hate noise on plugins. Then I use this snare drum. And on this one, I felt like it got a little bit too boomy, around 200. And I used, what did I do on here? I kind of did the same thing. I just thought, well, it was a different snare, so let's use a different plugin just to add a different kind of saturation vibe to it. I kind of feel like every plugin has its own sound, and if I make everything have the same sound and I'm just layering up, then it's all just going to sound the same. So I may as well use different plugins for different audio files. Not always, but, like this one, I used the same one again. But on this one, I added some bottom end instead of as much high end like I did in the others. So they were kind of, I was just tonal shaping the snare drums here. Then on the actual snare bus, what I've done is I've then glued them all together. So on the snare bus, I've used a noise suppressor, and that was kind of similar. The noise suppressor is basically just, again, tightening up the tail end of the snare drum. It's a little bit like a gate. I just felt like the snare was a little bit noisy on the samples, but I liked it. I like the hip-hop kind of vibe to it. And so I just wanted to just kind of control it. So that's why I used this to control the noise within the snare samples. And then I added the tape head saturation again, which is similar to the kick, just to give it some continuity. And then I did the same thing here, added some gates to the snare just to increase that attack and decay. And then I used some overall brightness on all of the snares together. I just felt like towards the end of the mix, I remember adding this on, and I was thinking, the snare drum just needs a little bit more kind of top end, and so that's what I did. So if I just take all these plugins off, and you hear that noise running through that snare with it on. It's subtle, but it makes a big difference. Hi-hats and percussion, I actually didn't do anything. Sometimes you get good samples and they don't need touching at all. I don't ever really process hats very much. I find hats so overpowering in tracks anyway that I don't really want to add any more stuff to them. Unless there's problem frequencies within the hats, then I just leave them as they are. And a lot of the time the percussion's the same. Unless I'm doing physical production things with panning, like Soundtoys Pan Man, then I may do that then. But other than that, I just kind of leave it as it is. What have we got here? I can't remember what these are. Again, just some crashes, rides, just some fills. So if I just play the drums and kick, let me just do this. So this is my drums. That's kind of holding the track. Sounds great to me. Okay, and then this is where the bass comes in. So the bass, we've got this bass here. With all plugins off. Add a bit of tape, just gives it kind of that analog kind of tape sound. Did some EQ, I felt like there was a build up around this frequency. Did some compression, 3 or 4 dB. This was mainly just to control it. Then I used the Oxford Inflator. Amazing plugin. I still have no idea what this plugin does, but it sounds good, so I use it. Do you know, I was having a conversation with another producer the other day, and we were talking about the Oxford Inflator. And it's one of those plugins, right? You would think I would know about this because I do it, or I'm using it, but I don't really understand what this plugin does. It just, you put it on anything and it just sounds bigger, wider, more depth, sounds more 3D, but I don't actually understand what it's doing. But you know what, I don't really care because it sounds good. So that was basically, I used this. It's just, again, added depth, I guess you could use. Any of you watching, if you know what this plugin actually does, tell me. It is magic. Danny, hi. Thanks for watching. If I'm going too quick, guys, as well, tell me, yeah? I do kind of go quite fast. I also mix quite quick as well. I kind of am one of those people that if I do something by accident, it was meant to be, and if it's wrong on the master, then it was wrong. So, it's one of those things, because I spent a lot of time kind of going around in circles and circles and circles on mixes, and it's it's easy to literally bang your head against the wall constantly trying to EQ a snare drum that really it's not really important. What's important is that everything kind of just works, and if you can kind of get the low end bass drums sit together, I just feel like everything will just kind of fall into place naturally. Then after that, what I did was I felt like this bass needed a little bit more punch, and I could have put more plugins on the track, on the inserts, but I felt like I wanted to just have a little bit more control. So what I did was I used a parallel bus, and I went between the Little Labs Voice of God and the R bass, but I actually went with the Little Labs instead of R bass. I don't know why, it just sat better. This plugin is amazing, and I'll show you what I'm doing without this in, with it in. Without, within. This is just adding that like 40 hertz, just that bottom end punch. And again, I use some RVox to control it. If you're going to add low end, you don't want your low end, a bit like reverb, you don't want that low end to cause mess. So what I'm doing is I'm controlling the low end with a gate, and I'm also using an EQ to control the low end. There's a bit of a build up around 50. Probably that's because that's where the kick drum was sitting, and I kind of do subtractive and additive. So if I'm boosting 50 hertz, let's say, on the kick, I will most likely reduce 50 hertz on the bass or sidechain. I don't actually tend to do much sidechaining, but it just depends on genre of music. Obviously, Sam, you'll know, I'm sure you do a lot of sidechaining in the genre of music that you do. By the way, Sam is a great producer and mixer as well. So check his stuff out. That's that for that. And then what I did was I felt like the bass didn't really cut through in certain kind of systems when I was playing it in the car, and I checked mixes. I also checked mixes on these, if you can see these Audio Technas M50X, I think they're called M50X. They are amazing. I just felt like the bass was just getting lost. So what I did was I just did the whole trick where I duplicated it and distorted it. I used the same kind of, I did something a bit different actually. I took all the high end out, so I just had the low sub, which is where the bass was kind of sitting anyway. Then I distorted it, and then what I did was I took all the low end out, so I had just the high frequencies of the low end. Hopefully that makes sense to you. So if I just solo the bass distortion bus track, so it's the same bass as before. Depending on what system you're listening on, you may not be able to hear that, or you might be able to. Then I distorted it. Which sounds awful and muddy and horrible, so then I did another EQ, which still sounds dreadful, but that to me, that just adds that little bit of presence in the top end, which is really important in this track. So the bass, so that was the bass. We went through different basses in the production. I actually produced this. Luch Stefano, the artist as well, added some bits as well. So that's basically with the drums and bass. that's that working. And then we added some effects. These effects actually came from Luch himself. He really wanted them in. So the effects we have is just the old school crackle. Thanks, Danny. So you can hear that, very subtle, and that's just kind of adding warmth, a bit of texture to the track. Luch insisted there were some birds. And then we've got like a guitar effects. Then there's so much in this track that you don't actually hear, you just feel it. I can't really explain it, but yeah. Kind of little sweep. Sam, obviously, the kind of genre you do, you know all about sweeps. Oh, I've got a door slam. There's a laugh. And we've got some car noises.
I will incinerate you.
So if I put that in the track with the bass, with the drums, bass, and the effects.
I will incinerate you.
Glad you like the textures. Do you know what though? And as you can see, honestly, it's no secret. Like the effects, I haven't done anything to. All I've done is put them to a bus, put some low end out, and I didn't really even need to do that. I did that just because I'm scared. Well, I'm not scared, but I'm always cautious of the fact that the human ear can only hear between 20 and 20,000, so why have anything lower than 20? So it's kind of a bit of a habit. I just kind of do this as like protection. I know that I'm never going to want anything below kind of here anyway in effects, so I just do that. But to be honest with you, it wasn't really necessary. In this case, I just shoved the effects to the drum bus, just because it was part of the drums anyway. But as you can hear, if you get the drums and the bass tight, everything else is easy. Honestly, I can't stress that enough. Then we added some guitars, acoustic guitars. After that, let me just go to my music bus and unmute that. The guitars, what do we have? We have these doubles left and right. Definitely Safe and Sorry. So they're the guitars. I recorded those guitars with Luch. We used a U87 going into a Neve preamp, bit of compression, and that's basically them. We just did a left and a right take, and we did some doubles here as well. So we got these guitars. Them two together. We've got some more guitars here. Just build ups. We've got some more here. working together. Guitar wise, as I say, I told you how I recorded them. Just do lefts and rights. They're just doubles. I will just take all the plugins off. Bit of tape saturation. Bit of EQ. Again, taking low end out because you don't need it. It's multi-band again, taking more low end out. The reason why I used this plugin was because you can hear that he's kind of, he's like palm muting it, like he's hitting the string with his palm. And so if you can see that every time he hits that's ducking. Paul Tech, this plugin is amazing on acoustic guitars. Just boost to 10k and it will sound amazing. This plugin, I just added it on because I like the plugin. It's not even doing any compression. It just sounds good when you put it on. It just adds this brightness. Look, if you listen. Makes everything forwards. Then what I did is I wanted to make it even more stereo. So I used some Brainworks, Plugin Alliance, great company. And I just added 130 spread. And the reason why I did that was because I felt like the bass, the kick was so kind of center, so mono. I just needed a little bit of room for vocal. And when I added the vocals with the drums, the guitar was kind of getting in the way of the vocals. So what I did was I pushed the guitars to the side a little bit more. I EQ'd, again, some horrible frequencies around here, which is where the snare was, which I EQ'd out, and that's because the bass and the kick are around this area as well for punch, so it was not needed. And then I added a little bit of room onto the guitars. So that's basically the guitars. And then we got the electric guitars, which are here. Again, they're just some guitars, some riffs, and they're following similar to what the acoustic guitars doing, just giving a different sound. With the electric guitars, just put an amp simulator on it. I love this amp simulator. It's like the most basic amp simulator ever, but it just sounds good. It's by Waves, love it. Then I added some Pro MB just to control the low end. Then I added my trusty radiator, boosted the high end, and then on this time I felt like that there was still a lot of noise in the guitar. And this can happen sometimes just on DI, basically I use that to kind of just reduce the noise within the track. Left and right, copied and pasted them where needed. I added some spring reverb, and the spring reverb that I'm using, I believe, is UAD, AKG, this one, BX20. Great reverb, always just sounds good on guitars. I don't even think I've changed it. I think I've just used the defaults, so I haven't even touched the reverb, which is quite unusual. Normally I would actually EQ the reverb and take the low end out, but I felt like it didn't really need to, so I didn't. And then the only other part was I added a delay on, where is it? On the riffs. Just got a little guitar delay, and that guitar delay is probably Echo Boy, if I'm right. Guitar delay. Echo Boy, yeah. Is it going to pull up? Yeah, 1/8. And it's on the fat style. So yeah, I just did that. And that was just to add some movement. Right, Sam, what are you saying? Have you heard about the Plugin Alliance Soundwave Bundle 600 worth? Yes, I have. Do you know what? I've actually downloaded it, Sam. But I have that subscription with them where I get everything. So yeah, I was thinking about not having that and just using that bundle, because this is the thing, right, guys, is you literally only need 5 plugins. I have these plugins, one because I get bored, so it's a way of like making it interesting. Second of all, like, I don't know, I like having options, but the issue is with that is if you've got too many options, one, it slows down your mixing, two, you don't really get to know the plugins properly, and you end up spending time experimenting, which is great, but when you're doing it for a job, you're also up against time, and time equals money, and sometimes you have deadlines, and so you can't always spend 5 days on one track. So yeah, there's benefits and you know disadvantages, I guess, to having lots of plugins and lots of choice. But my main thing now, I do tend to use a selection of plugins, and I will only use the plugins across the mix. Yeah. What are you guys saying? I'm reading while talking. I had most of the ones I'd use out the bundle already, which is pretty... Exactly, that's the thing. Once you get plugins that you like, don't change it. It's like if it sounds good, then it sounds good. The best thing that's going to make any difference is honestly just your ears. Just listen to music, find out what kind of stuff you like, and try and experiment and see kind of what those guys are doing, and try and find out how to achieve that mix. Because plugins are not going to help. They're just not. So, right. What else did I do on this? What have we got? We got some synth stuff. So this is a keyboard. Just added some filter. I don't know what you guys think, right? But I always find when I get like MIDI instruments or like synths that aren't real, like if you just put a filter on the high pass, they just sound more expensive and they just sound better. I don't know why. I just think the high end in some of these VSTs are just awful. But obviously it all depends on context. Like some high end is great if you need it. But within this mix, I just felt like just filter everything and it sounds better. So that's what I did. Then there's some strings. Talking about sidechain, Sam, I actually sidechained that to the kick. There you are, there's some sidechaining. I just felt like it needed that. It just gives me a bit of energy, and because it's like one note sustained throughout the track, I need it to have a little bit of vibe to it. What have we got here? We've got some more synths. Some more strings. This is an amazing synth. I can't remember the name. I don't know why it's not on there, but it's from Serum. It's a preset, and it's this, and it just sounds amazing. Any production or mix I do, I'll try and get that in there somewhere because it just makes everything better. Then I've got this thing here. Some little string plucks. Added a bit of compression on that and some hall reverb just to give it a bit of spread because they're quite staccato notes. Yeah, digital fuzz, Sam. Yeah, that fuzz is horrible. Right, and then what else have we got? We've got some... yeah, just did some licks where I felt like it needed it. So that is basically that. So if I just play what we've got now, everything in it, apart from the vocals, you've got this. Oh. Oh, thanks, Sam. We got 2 Sams in here. So Sam number 2, he said the track is so creative and cleverly produced. Thank you so much. As I say, I produced this, but I also had Luch, the artist, as well. He's an amazing artist, and he's the type of person that is great to work with because he knows what he wants. If he thinks something is rubbish, he will tell me. The drums we produced together over Zoom. The strings we both did again over Zoom. The acoustic guitars I recorded, he was playing the acoustic guitars. So we kind of, it was a co-production on this. So I've got to give it to Luch. He did a fantastic job, choosing what he wanted. I spent a lot of time on the sound selection. The drums took me quite a while to kind of get right with the production. Because the drums, as I say, they are everything. Drums and the vocal with the track. So I always find that if you start off with the wrong snare drum or the wrong kick sound, you're just, it's not going to go down well later down the line. So I really try and, get that right. And that's just down to layering, using splice and layering. And if you get it right, I don't get it right always. I'm human. I do get it wrong sometimes. But if you do get it right, it can sound great, and you're not doing much mixing in that sense, like fixing things. Strings, the strings I used I believe it was the Native Instruments string 2. I can find out. I'll just use a MIDI track. I'll tell you what it was. This was actually produced in Logic. Let me just do this. I tend to do the production in Logic and mix in Pro Tools. So I'm just loading this. This is a heavy mix as well as production, so it's a little bit slow. Instrument contact, where are we? The strings were the Native Instruments, so come on, load up. It would have been... It was either session strings or Session Strings Pro 2. It would have been one of them two, because they're the only strings I have. So, yeah. But a lot of it is down to the playing of it. So the like the what do you call it? Oh, how hard you play it. Oh, I've lost it. I don't know what I'm saying now. How to make it inactive. Velocity. That's the word. Velocity. So yeah. So then we come down to the vocals. The vocals, again, that was recorded on a U87 into the same preamp, Neve preamp, with some compression, about 2 dB compression. So same as the acoustic guitars we used for the vocal. And Luch is a great singer. He knows what he's doing. So it was, again, very easy to record. There wasn't too much to do on the vocal. I'm just going to turn everything off. Then we're going to go through one by one what I did. Any major difference between the different plugins? Different plugins in what? The string plugins, Sam, or plugins in what I'm using? Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't really know if there's a major difference. I mean, from strings that I've used before, the Native Instruments ones are the ones that I kind of just tend to go to, just because I know that they're going to be good, because anything Native Instruments kind of make tends to be pretty good. So I like them. Yeah. Either the Session Strings or the String Session Pro will be the only 2 strings you'll ever see me use, unless I'm getting a string arranger that's doing it. But yeah. I think they are worth it. It depends how many times you're going to be using strings. I mean, sometimes with productions or mixes, I just use splice and get the splice-sounded string samples and just cut them up and then use that. So, it just depends. You just got to experiment. I mean, Yeah, but getting strings to sound real isn't always about the string VST. It's about how you're playing the strings. So that is a big factor as well. Vocal wise, this, let me just go through what I did.
Every single day.
So at the start, there is some automation on. I'm just going to play it from here.
The morning light, I know. Put the song on play. Play me a song you like. Is it alright if we like?
So this is the vocal.
Okay, I don't mind making out in the morning light, I know. Put the song on play. Play me a song you like. Is it alright if we lie fully naked?
Then what I did was, it was tuned on Melodyne, and then I slapped some auto-tune on it. I always do 40-20-20, whether that's right or not, it always sounds good to me, so I just keep it the same. Alto tenor, A flat major, that was the key of the song. Then I started using this. So normally I'll use a FabFilter Pro Q3, which I'm sure most of you know, and I'll do a high pass to around 70 hertz. This time I decided to do it on a multiband. I don't really know why. I don't know the reason for it, but
okay, I don't mind
it's just controlling low ends.
In the morning light, I know. Put the song on play.
Then I did a DS because I felt like it needed some de-essing. Then I added some EQ.
I don't mind making out in the morning light, I know. Put the song on play.
So with additive EQ, I'm always wondering whether to do it before the compression or after compression. Now, I know a lot of people do it after the compression. Now, the way I see it is if I've used analog EQ to record the vocal in, I'll tend to do tonal shaping after I've done compression. If I've recorded it in with no EQ, but I've recorded it in with a compressor, then I will do probably my additive EQ before the compression in this case, just because I want to be able to shape the vocal and then compress it, because I've already compressed it going in. So I kind of do it that way, so I'm compressing the tone of the vocal that I like, more so than compressing it of a tone that I don't want to then change after. This compressor is the Kush Audio compressor. This is a great compressor. I love it.
I don't mind making out in the morning light, I know. Put the song on.
It's a bit like the RVox. It just puts it in its place, and I'm actually using that in parallel. I just felt like I didn't need loads of it. Then I'm using another compressor, and this compressor again is purely for the tone. This compressor, I don't know why, I think it's free, that comes with UAD if you ever get an interface. But look, if I take this out,
don't mind making out in the morning light, I know. Put the song on play. Play me a song you like, is it alright?
it just has this incredible high end. I don't know why. I am doing some compression on it, but it just sounds great. Then that is it for the actual lead vocal processing on the actual inserts. Now at the start I have got automation
Every single day.
because Luch decided that he wanted to sound like he was in a bathroom at the start of the song, just to change it up in the intro. So I just used some EQ to EQ the bathroom sound and a reverb to make some space so it sounded like it was in a bathroom, and that was just automated on the first verse and taken off for the rest of the song. Then what I do is, after I've done all of the kind of EQ and compression kind of plugins and fixing it, then I'll add some saturation. They'll go to a lead vocal bus, add some saturation, and that's just adding some grits.
Put the song on play. Play me a song you like, is it on?
Just adding around 5k a little bit. Then I'll go through and sweep.
Put the song on play.
What I tend to do with EQ, right, is I just do it on here. I tend to do this. So if I'm doing this, I'll go like this. Be careful of your ears.
Put the song on play.
Yeah, that's annoying me. Then I'll do this. That's annoying me. I'll just go through. Yep, that's annoying me.
Put the song on play.
Yep, that's annoying me too. Then I'll highlight everything and I'll either take it out or I'll just do some where is it? Some multi-band EQ, just so it's only happening at certain points, just so I'm not losing the vocal kind of feel. Like I'm not making the vocal too thin. I'll do it like this, so it's only getting out the points where it's causing the actual issue. So that's basically what I did here. It's a good little technique. Then what I did was that was kind of it. And then I felt like as the mix was kind of getting along, I felt like the vocal just needed that extra kind of brightness and that kind of pop sheen. So I then added just this Marg EQ. I did some slight shaping and I boosted at 20 hertz. Again, these were subtle movements. And because I boosted at 20, I smashed it with a de-esser.
Put the song on play.
And I always use this. This is my last kind of tickle of a compressor at the end of a vocal.
Morning light, I know. Put the song on play.
And then I felt like I needed more volume. Like I felt like the vocal was still not quite there, so I added another compressor.
Morning light, I know.
And then I don't know why, I just felt like in this scenario I just wanted to keep adding brightness. I feel like Luch's voice, it needed that kind of sheen, that high kind of pop sheen, as I said a second ago, and I just felt like it wasn't coming out of that with his vocal on the mic that we use, so I just kind of had to keep adding. And this is what I do. I just add until I think it sounds right, and then when I think it sounds right, I leave. So that's kind of what I did there.
Morning light, I know. Put the song on play. Play me a song you like. Is it alright if we lie fully naked and just let?
So if I played that with the beat.
Morning light, I know. Put the song on play. Play me a song. It'll be you in my mouth, and that's okay. I don't mind making out in the morning light. I know. Put the song on play. Play me a song you like.
Yeah, so that sounded cool to me. That was sitting on top of the beat nicely. Yeah, that's that. Then if we talk about the effects, do you know what? I didn't use any delay in this track. Now, normally I use a vocal delay, but I just didn't. I used a widener. What did I use for a widener? I used a Studio D, just as chorus.
It'll be you in my mouth, and that's okay.
If I look
Be
at,
you in my mouth, and that's okay. I don't mind making.
that's just adding like width to me.
Be you in my mouth.
Then I got a room.
Be you in my mouth, and that's okay.
Oh, I know what's happened with this mix. I did the whole UAD trial, and it's expired. That's embarrassing. No, do you know what? It's funny with UAD. Like I love them, but you know, you get the thing where you can trial new plugins and then realize it's like crazy expensive, and then you either kind of get the mix done on time and then you don't need it, or you end up buying it. But I have so many reverb plugins I really do not need anymore. I'm currently using the Seventh Heaven reverb, which is the best reverb ever. I'm not sponsored by any of these plugins, but this plugin blew my mind. This plugin's just the best plugin ever. Any reverb you want to get this plugin. It's the Seventh Heaven reverb. It sounds like a Procasti, which are known to be the best. Anyway, I can't show you the reverb on that because it's a trial, but it was just a room reverb. And then I added a plate, which wasn't actually a plate, I don't think. I've got a feeling it's the same reverb, but as a small hall. And all I was doing there, they were very subtle. It was just a bit of depth and a bit of width. That was all. I was just using the room reverb to add some room, and the hall just to add a little bit of space, like more space. So yeah, and that was it for effects. I then use a parallel vocal bus just to get a bit more oomph out the vocal, with a de-esser, an RVox again to get that attack, some saturation, and some EQ. That's it. It was just basically a parallel compressor with the RVox, which is going quite hard. If I take it out,
Be you in my mouth, and that's okay. I don't mind.
oh, where are we?
Be you in my mouth, and that's okay. I don't mind
Without it.
making out in the morning light. I know. Put the song on play. Play me a song you like. Is it alright if we lie fully naked?
So that's just kind of giving that kind of oomph and keeping it on top. And the dubs are processed exactly the same. They're just the left and the rights.
Be you in my mouth, and that's okay. I don't mind making out in the morning light. I know, but this song I'll play.
Then at the end of the vocal, we've got this. Again, copy and paste. Everything's the same. The only thing is I've used Saturn and I've used an amp just to get that sound. It was just a stylistic thing that he wanted, so I've done that. And then there's some room space verb, some ambience reverb, and that's it. And then if we go to the backing vocals, again, they're processed the same kind of bus processing up here, but I haven't done as much. I don't really tend to do as much with backing vocals as I do on lead because it's not really needed.
Just to wake up with a little bit of you in my mouth.
These sound like
Wake
this.
up with a little bit of you in my mouth. Making out in the morning light.
Again, same plugins. Ooze. Again, they got the same thing on. Again, just auto-tune. The only difference is I'm using a bigger reverb, a spread. Oh, and I'm using some lo-fi. We wanted just to make these just a little bit different, and I'm just knocking off high end. That's it. What I did do as well is you will see that there's some tracks here, which I don't know why they're on there. Oh, here they are. I tend to do I tend to do my delays not on separate tracks and cut them, just so I can visually see the delay. So the delay is here. So if you hear this.
And we can actually
sit here as well.
Say, would you leave me?
And all I did here was just use some effects racks, some chorus, pushing the delays out to the sides. And that's basically it for the delays. So I did use some delays, but I didn't use any delay on the actual vocal, like lead vocal. It was just in certain places only I felt like the vocal was thick enough with that doubler. So that's that. Then we got some vocal effects, and these effects are what Luch did. What have we got?
Yes.
Just some samples. Don't know why that's in the vocal. That was a mistake, but it sounded good. Some car. These should have been in the effects, but...
Come on, hurry up, just get in. Come on, hurry up, just get in.
I don't know why they're in there, but, you know, it was meant to be. Then what happens is, so as I said earlier, so that's kind of the bulk of that. Are there any questions? Am I moving too quick? Or if there's any questions, then shout. No? Okay, I'm going to continue. And then, once all that's done, I then have like my sub-buses. So I have, as I said earlier, kick and bass, drums, music, vocals. And I felt like nothing needed anything on the drums and the bass. Nothing needed anything on the kick either. Sorry, with drums and the bass. Music-wise, I wanted to control the low end. So if I just play it.
Okay, I don't like you. How's that? Turn on the TV.
Some EQ, where that guitar's hitting. Just building up a bit too much. And then this plugin, Little Radiator, is amazing on the music bars. It just adds this like 400 hertz across the whole mix, which just sounds great. If I take it off. With it on.
your feet if you just.
Now the vocals, I felt like again the vocal needed a little bit more kind of bit of salt and vinegar on at the end. So I just added some slight EQ adjustments. This is my go-to trick with vocals.
Play me a song you like. Is it
All my lead vocals, all my backing vocals, anything vocal goes to an all vocal bus, and on the all vocal bus I always do this. Multi-band at high end, low end, and it just basically does a little bit of de-essing and controls the lows, and it's amazing what this job does.
play me a song you like? Is it alright if we lie fully naked and just lay here? And maybe then you'll stay another night.
And then what did I do here? I boosted some 40. You know how earlier it was on the lead vocal bus and I boosted at 20. This time I boosted at 40. Again, just because I felt like it needed it. And so this is the track.
Play me a song you like. Is it alright if we lie?
We just do kick and drums.
One actually chill. Instead the bed gets wrecked and next one of us sitting back down. Netflix is for the background. The neighbors going mad now. Jump into my car and round to Mackey's. Mayo chicken in my bag please. Laughing at the losers in the whip. They're proper chubby. Every single day I used to wake up with a little bit of you in my mouth. And
Now, as I said earlier about gain staging, I try and get the mix bus. So I'll talk about the mix bus now. I try and get the mix bus to hit around minus 10 dB, just because I know that I'm then going to have headroom, and I know that it works with my plugin template. So because of that, let me just take off what I did. Because of that, all of these go to a mix bus, and I felt like it was hitting the mix bus too loud, so I had to do minus 2.
I don't mind making out in the morning light, I know.
So if I just take the limiter off, just because we've been listening to it with the limiter on.
I don't mind making out in the morning light, I know. Put the song on play. Play me a song you like. Is it alright if we like?
Do you know what? It's a little bit hotter than I usually would, but it sounds good, so it doesn't really matter. I played around with some tape, didn't like it because I already had tape on the bass, already had tape on some other things. I just went straight into a compressor, about 2 dB hopefully.
And that's okay.
Yeah, just touching it.
I don't mind making out in the morning.
Then I added some spread and did some mid-side and stereo EQ. Again, I don't really know why. I must have felt like it at the time. This is important. I made everything mono below 80 hertz. Just makes everything sound tight in the car, so I did it. Then I added
and that's okay.
some shadow hills.
Mind making out in the morning light, I know. Put the song on play.
This compressor is a little bit like the Arvox and vocals. It just makes the whole mix just forward. It just kind of gives this energy to the mix that you just brings out, so I used that. Then I did some smiley face EQ. I think I boosted around 42 dB and also 11K 3 dB or 2 dB as well.
With the proper chubby. Every single day I used to wake up with a.
Then I got the old trusty Oxford inflator, and again it just added this cool depth that I liked, so I just kept it, and that was it.
I can't make all of you. Mind making out in the morning light, I know.
And I added a limiter on when I sent it to Luch just for listening reference, and then I took the limiter off, and it then got sent for mastering. So that's basically how I mixed the track. If you've got any questions, shout. But yeah, so the overall mix, obviously there's no reverb on the vocal, so I'll play the limited mix as the bounce that it was with the reverb on. You can have another listen. But this was the track.
Every single day I used to wake up with a little bit of you in my mouth, and that's okay. I don't mind making out in the morning light, I know. Put the song on play. Play me a song you like. Is it alright if we lie fully naked and just lay here? Maybe then we'll stay home overnight. I'm all too needy. Okay, I don't like you. How's that? Turn on the TV and we can actually chill, but no one actually chill. Instead the bed gets wrecked and next one of us this, then back down. Netflix is for the background. The neighbors going mad now. Jump into my car and round to Mackey's. Mayo chicken in my bag, please. Laughing at the losers in the whip, they're proper chubby. Every single day I used to wake up with a little bit of you in my mouth, and that's okay. I don't mind making out in the morning light. I know, put the song on play. Play me a song you like. Is it alright if we lie fully naked and just lay here? Maybe then you'll stay another night. Say, would you leave me if I told you I can't make all of your wishes come true? Yes. I ain't no genie, but I can sweep you off your feet if you just fly with me. I want a night ride, I want a night ride, and anywhere we drive is fine with me. I want a night ride, I want a night ride, and anywhere we drive is fine with me.
Come on, hurry up.
Every single day I used to wake up with a little bit of you in my mouth, and that's okay. I don't mind making out in the morning light. I know, put the song on play. Play me a song you like. Is it alright if we lie fully naked and just lay here? Maybe then you'll stay another night.
Wait, there's got to be a solo like.
So yeah, that's basically the mix, the track, and as I say, you know, I look back at kind of what I've done. Honestly, it just the samples are everything. As you can see, I honestly I'm not doing anything that you know that's major. There's nothing really on the drums. So if you choose the right samples and you choose everything kind of right, then it kind of just does everything itself. I am doing very, very light touches across this to get it to sound like this. It's, you know, obviously the song is good. Luch is great. He's a good writer. He's a good, artist and a singer. And, the arrangement works well, but it really is all about the arrangement. And if you get that right, then everything else will just flow nicely. If you've got any questions, put them in the messages. I am going to be streaming. Normally I stream every Tuesday, but this week it is Wednesday, so it may occasionally swap. I'm going to keep doing this and sharing all the knowledge I know, because, it's helpful, and sharing's caring. But no, thank you so much, guys, for watching. I'll give it a couple of minutes and I'm going to leave. I'll stop the stream. But yeah, if it's something you want me to kind of keep doing, then, let me know. I'll keep this up, and if there is any tracks, not everything I mix can be live streamed, so I'm always after kind of specific mixes that I can mix live on live stream for you guys. So if you guys have any tracks that you want me to mix in front of you, then do let me know and we can sort something out with that. So yeah. Any questions? I don't think any of you can see the chat. I can. I'm looking at it. Oh, thanks, Sam. I know with Twitch you can create like different tiers and stuff. So yeah, maybe we can create some different content to put on. But yeah. I'm just chatting now. Let's put some background music on.
All my life, you stood by me when no one else was ever behind me. All these lights, they can't blind me. With your love, nobody can drag me down. Nobody can drag me down.
All right. What I will do is I'll be leaving these videos up on Twitch, and I'll also put them on YouTube as well. So if you guys want to watch anything back, then feel free to.
I'll be a hover. You could be my destiny's child. See it. All my life, you stood by me when no one else was ever behind me. All these lights, they can't blind me. With your love, nobody can drag me down. Nobody can drag me down.
All right, I'm off. Hope you all have a lovely evening, and I'll be back next week. And yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. All the support, really appreciate it. It allows me to keep doing it, so yeah. Cheers, guys. See you later. Bye bye.